Elias was a quiet boy. A brilliant one, yes, but quiet in the way that made others uncomfortable. He moved like smoke through the halls of Arkenhold's Royal Academy. Pale, precise, eyes too deep for his age. While other students laughed, sparred, or whispered about noble bloodlines, Elias dissected cadavers with surgical grace. He found beauty in ligaments and logic in disease. Emotion, conversation, friendships, these were distractions. Inefficient, messy, irrational. His world was order, study, structure. And then, everything began to unravel. It started on the second morning of springtide. The air was cool, clean, still wet with the night's dew. Elias stood in the autopsy chamber, sleeves rolled, tools laid out like a ritual. As he reached for a scalpel, something caught his attention. Something not in the room, but just outside it. Presence. Something low to the ground, crooked. A flash of limbs. A silhouette crouching near the door. But when he turned his head, there was nothing. He stood frozen for a moment, breath shallow. He rubbed his eyes, laughed nervously to himself. A shadow. A trick of light. Too many late nights. That had to be it. That evening, he studied in his quarters, lit by the soft amber flicker of a lantern. As he turned a page, he paused. The corner of the room felt off. He didn't see anything, not truly, but he felt it. Like a tension in the air, a knot in his thoughts, a watching. On the third day, it returned. During a lecture on the nerves of the thorax, Elias caught a glimpse of the same hunched figure, this time crouched between the shelves in the back of the lecture hall. He froze. The voice of the instructor faded. The thing didn't move. And yet, when he turned to look directly, it was gone. But something unexpected happened. For the first time, Elias raised his hand and spoke aloud in front of the class. His voice didn't tremble. He spoke with clarity, with precision. He corrected the physician leading the lecture, calmly but confidently. The man blinked, then nodded slowly. "You may be right, Elias," he said, smiling faintly. "Very good." That day, students who had never so much as looked his way offered greetings in the halls. A noble boy named Corin asked if he wanted to study together. Someone even offered to share their notes. That night, as Elias brushed his teeth, he saw the figure again, reflected in the burnished brass of the basin behind him. Warped, distant, crouched. And this time it seemed to be smiling. By the fourth day, Elias had changed. He awoke early, polished his boots, adjusted his robes with care. There was color in his cheeks, a lift in his posture. His words came easier now, fluid, charming. In the library, he referenced obscure texts from memory. Professors lingered after class to ask his opinion. Students laughed at his jokes. Corin invited him to a formal dinner. Even Princess Honora, cold and unreadable, locked eyes with him during the midday meal. She nodded once, slow, deliberate. The figure was always nearby now, behind tapestries, reflected in glass, in the corners of rooms, never fully seen, yet unmistakably present. Elias found that he didn't fear it anymore. In fact, he whispered to it, in the quiet hours before dawn. "You've helped me," he said once. "Haven't you?" The fifth day arrived like a storm in disguise. Elias still walked with pride, still spoke with brilliance. But his eyes had changed. They twitched, scanning people's expressions, listening too closely to laughter, looking too long at others' smiles. Were they genuine or mocking? Had the princess's gaze been respect or pity? The creature never answered, but it no longer needed to. Elias felt its thoughts, sharp as pins, sliding through the cracks in his own. He knew what others truly meant when they spoke. He could see the intentions behind their eyes. At least, that's what he told himself. When a young page brushed against him in the hall, Elias grabbed his arm and hissed something about betrayal. When a fellow student laughed at a joke he hadn't heard, Elias followed him for half an hour, convinced he was conspiring with the creature. And the creature, it had changed, too. It was growing, standing, becoming more defined. Its arms were too long now, its joints bent the wrong way. The skin was darker than shadow, slick like oil. And sometimes, when Elias moved, The creature mimicked him, just a beat behind. A grotesque echo. By the 6th day, everything collapsed. In the middle of a lecture, Elias snapped. He stood up suddenly, wide-eyed and trembling. He pointed at another student, one who'd once called him a ghost, and shouted that he was working for it, that he was trying to open Elias's skull and let the thing out. The boy stammered. Others gasped. Elias lunged, clutching a broken quill like a blade. Guards were called. 4 of them tackled him. He thrashed and screamed, insisting they couldn't see it, that they were blind, that it was right there behind the podium. He wept as they dragged him through the great stone corridors. Professors averted their eyes. The princess turned away. Even Corin said nothing. The king himself, who had begun to take an interest in this strange boy-turned-savant, ordered his imprisonment in the deepest dungeons beneath Arkenhold. The 7th day. There were no windows in the dungeon. No warmth. Just stone and silence. Elias sat on the floor, knees to his chest, muttering to himself in fragments. Anatomy mixed with prophecy. There was no more pretending now. The creature was with him, fully. In the darkness, it emerged like a second soul pulled out of his skin. It walked toward him with the slow, deliberate grace of something that had waited. His face was his face, but wrong. The proportions slightly off, like a mask stretched over bone. Its mouth twitched when he spoke, syncing with his thoughts, a mocking reflection of his madness. It sat across from him in the dirt, and it spoke, not aloud but in his mind. Now we are alone. No distractions. No lies. You always knew I was real. You just needed to look harder. Elias trembled, pressing himself into the wall. But he didn't scream. He laughed, because he understood now. The creature had never been behind him or beside him. It hadn't followed him. It had been growing inside him, feeding, becoming, and now there was nothing left to separate them. Some say that dungeon door was sealed after Elias's screams refused to stop. Others whisper that if you pass by the lower halls of Arkenhold, you might feel something. A flicker in your peripheral vision. A shape you can't quite place. A breath at your neck. It's nothing, of course. Just a trick of the light. As long as you never look directly at it.